The three-day Russia's presidential election is concluding today, and there were 4 candidates running for Russian president in Russia's 8th presidential election. If Russian President Vladimir Putin completes a new 6-year term, he will overtake Joseph Stalin to become Russia's longest-serving leader. Here's a report.
Russia's 8th presidential election, which began on Friday, concludes on Sunday. The election result is expected to keep President Vladimir Putin in power for another 6 years. This would enable him to overtake Joseph Stalin to become Russia's longest-serving leader. Besides Russian President Vladimir Putin, the other 3 candidates in the election were leader of the Liberal Democratic Party Leonid Slutsky, Vladislav Davenkov from Russia's New People Party, and Nikolai Kharitonov, the Russian Communist Party's candidate. Ukraine war has cast a shadow over voting in the election. More than 114 million Russians were eligible to vote, including what Moscow calls its new territories. Residents of the Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine too cast their ballots on Friday.
I remember it all well. All of it I remember well. It was all difficult and hard. No water, no light, no gas, no food, nothing. We have been surviving. My flat, it's a totally destroyed house. I have been living there with a housemate for 27 years. What have left of it are just walls. No roof, nothing else.
United States, United Kingdom and UN on Friday condemned Russian efforts to conduct its presidential election in occupied areas of Ukraine.
We continue to condemn the sham election in Ukraine's temporarily occupied territory for what it is, one in a pattern of failed attempts to justify the unjustifiable.
While on the other hand, Moscow accused Ukraine of using air attacks to try to sabotage the election. Besides, more than 50 United Nations member states have condemned Russian efforts to conduct its presidential election in occupied areas of Ukraine on Friday. The counting of votes begins once the election concludes. It continues until the results are finalized. The final results will be confirmed no later than March 28 by Russia's Central Election Commission and will be announced within 3 days of confirmation. Fuzail Ahmed reporting for DD India.
Dasha Chernyshova joins us from Russia. Good evening, Dasha. What is the current and the latest polling percentage that you can update us with? And when are we expecting the final results to come?
Well, up to this moment, we understand that over 65% of Russians have already had a chance to cast their ballots in the presidential election. It is the 3rd day and the final day of this voting. This is the countrywide turnout. Remember, Russia has 11 time zones, so we are expecting the polls to close at 8 p.m. in the evening. Moscow will be one of the last time zones where the polling stations will close. The next one will be Kaliningrad, so it is by 9 p.m. Moscow time or 6 p.m. GMT that the polls will eventually close in all the polling stations across the Russian territory. Some exit polls are expected to come up shortly. The voting process will also begin at that very moment, and the first results are expected to come in the matter of hours, and obviously it is in the morning of Monday when we understand that more precise results will be available to the wider public. At the same time, we understand that there have been certain irregularities reported across the Russian Federation, but they are not expected to somehow influence the impact the outcome of this election.
So can we say is Putin all set for his 5th term?
Well, it is indeed expected that President Vladimir Putin will secure yet another term as president of Russia, and the inauguration will be taking place later this year. That will be taking place in May. But as polls are expected to close, we understand that what worries the authorities here is the numbers. By what margin Vladimir Putin will be securing his new term, as well as how high the turnout turnout would be, as many political scientists say, it is important for the Russian authorities to make sure that the turnout is high, because that will be sort of legitimizing the ongoing course, including the Russian stance on Ukraine. As for what the Russian president will be setting for his next term, we have heard before the address to the Federal Assembly, in which Vladimir Putin was outlining his vision for the country for the next 6 years, including the launch of several national projects that are all expected to increase the independence, the economic might of Russia, as well as to meet the social needs.
All right. Thank you so much, Dasha, for filling in with that important